Hello and welcome to day 3 of Nazi Zombie Week, a co-production between myself here at the Geek Legion of Doom and Buckaroo Banzai, who you're going to see tomorrow, so be sure to check out his videos. They're going to be on this channel, but they're actually from Buckaroo Banzai. He's a great YouTuber. Anyway, today we're going to talk about an older Nazi zombie movie, this one from 1981, and this one is Zombie Lake. Now this one was directed by a gentleman called Jean Rollin, and he basically kind of disowned this film and pretty much denied he made it for a short while. And it was originally going to be directed by Jess Franco, who went on to direct Oasis of the Zombies, I believe it was, and which is also kind of a similar story, actually, to be honest. But this one is basically set in France, in kind of rural France somewhere, and basically it tells a story of this lake, I should probably imagine. And we're told that during World War II, essentially the bodies of dead Nazis that were killed by the French resistance were dumped in this lake that had some kind of, had been used for some kind of witchcraft before or something. And, years later, essentially, these zombies basically are sort of coming back from the watery grave to chow down on the local residents, particularly if they're pretty girls, you know what I mean? So this is the basic story here, and it does have a little bit of a subplot involving one of the zombies. Now, interestingly, this is kind of like almost a hero zombie in it to a point, where we have one of these zombies basically, when he was alive, actually had a child with one of the kind of the women, the French women in this village, and now it's some years later. He's basically trying to connect with his sort of now 10-year-old or so daughter. And basically acts a little bit more human. So these zombies are a little bit more coherent, say, than kind of your kind of typical brainless kind of flesh eaters. And other things they pretty much do act like this. Now this is renowned to be one of the kind of the worst zombie films of all time, in fact. But is it fair to say? Well, this is obviously quite a low budget film, and it's extremely sloppy. There's not much in the way of story here. The actual subplot here is probably the most interesting thing, although if you take that out, it really doesn't have any bearing on the overall story, because it really kind of doesn't have any knock-on effects if you were to take that out or to leave it in. It has no effect on the main story itself. And apparently it was only included in there because the girl in question, the 10-year-old girl, was actually, I think, the daughter or the granddaughter of one of the producers, so they kind of added it in basically. But to be fair, it's probably one of the more interesting elements of the film. Now the actual zombie makeup here is pretty much just men in green paint, and in points you'll be able to see where the kind of the paint is, stops kind of around their face and doesn't go onto their neck. It really is quite poor, and we have to bear in mind these guys have been in the bottom of a lake for 10 years basically, and they're not really that kind of bloated or decomposed. And obviously, back in 1981, maybe moviegoers weren't so discerning as they are now, and probably wouldn't pick holes in so much stuff. But they seem to be in fairly good shape considering where they've been for the last sort of 10 years or so. And it actually has, I've got to say, one of the most amusing zombie-on-zombie fight scenes, basically, where this kind of hero zombie is defending his daughter by having a fist fight with this other zombie, but it's all sort of done in kind of zombie-esque slow motion. It is quite amusing. It's the most unexciting fist fight you'll ever see. It's actually quite hilarious, to be quite honest with you. It's all very, very cheesy, this film. There's not a lot to it. This film is actually kind of renowned for its kind of gratuitous nudity, basically. The opening shot of this film has this kind of, this young girl sort of stripping off to kind of go swimming in this lake, and we see the kind of the zombie point of view under the water, and you can see right up there, if you know what I mean. But the actual zombie kills are very kind of poor. It does have a few sort of flashback scenes in World War II, but I do believe some of their footage was lifted from other films and kind of just reused. But I have to say the World War II scenes don't look too bad, apart from the absolutely cruddy sound effects that they use. But this is pretty bad, although I don't think it's quite as bad as some of the crap that I've seen, to be honest with you. I do think it has. Obviously the actual kind of this zombie guy trying to reconnect with his daughter maybe doesn't really make a lot of sense, but I found it was an interesting twist on it, and it's almost nice to sort of see a zombie maybe trying to reconnect with its kind of human side to a certain degree. I think they maybe go a little bit too far with it, and he maybe acts a little bit too human. But nonetheless, I thought the idea was probably one of the better ones, even though it was probably a bit more of a kind of just an accidental knock-on effect. But the overall effect here is it is a pretty poor film, don't get me wrong. It's not an exciting film, it's kind of very cheesy, there's not a lot to it. So overall I'm going to give this movie a 3 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. And be sure to stick around for the next exciting instalment of Nazi Zombie Week, brought to you by Buckaroo Banzai from now on.